Hi everybody and welcome to this tutorial in Data Alchemy where we are going to talk about how to create a database, how to create a table, and also how to insert some data in that table. So without any further ado, let's get started. So in this tutorial we are going to try to insert these values right here. So in the first column we have the employee ID, in the second column we have the employee name, and in the third column we have the salary. So let's get into my SQL that we downloaded in the last video. So the first thing is to create a database, and then when we create that database we use that the database that we just created, and then we insert a table in that database. Okay, so how to create a database? We simply use create database, and we name it wherever we want. So course, for example, and in the end of every line in my SQL workbench we must add a semicolon, and we hit Control and Enter, and now you can see that we just created a database. Create database course, one row affected. Okay, so now we have to use that database. So how we are going to do it? We simply type use and the name of the database that we want to use. In our case it's the course database, and also don't forget the semicolon. Control and Enter, and now you can see that the action was successful, and now we are using the course database. The next step is to create a table and also specify the name of the columns of that table. Okay, so how we create a table? We simply use create table, and you give it the name you want. I'm going to name it employees, for example. Employees, for example. And now you open and close a parentheses, and now between these parentheses we are going to mention the name of the columns that we want in that table. Okay, so in our case it's the employee ID, the employee name, and the salary. Okay, so we type employee ID. Okay, and after typing the name of that column we also have to specify the data type, the data type of that column, of the data that are going to be stored in that column. So for example, in the employee ID column we have 1, 2, 3, which are numbers, of course. So the data, what are first the data types? In MySQL we have many different data types, but the most used ones are integer, which is a whole number like 1, 2, 3, 5. We also have decimal, which is a decimal, which is a number that has a decimal. We also have varchar, which is simply a text, which stands for variable character, varchar. We are going to use it. And we have the boolean type, which is yes or no, true or false. And what else? We have the date data type. That's a data type that are going to be used when we are going to use dates. And yes, that's the most common and the most used data types. So now in our case, the employee name, the employee ID is are just numbers. So we are going to type int, which stands for integer. Okay, and then we just now we inserted the name of the column, we inserted its data type. Now to insert and to create the second column, we simply add a comma, and now we enter the name of the second column, which is employee name. So employee name, it's a text. Okay, so we are going to use the varchar data type, and between brackets you specify the maximum character, the maximum number of characters that are going to be stored in that column. So by convention we type 255, and yes, that's it. We add a comma, and the third column is salary, so we type salary, and it's a whole number, so we are going to use integer. Okay, so now because we don't have any other column, so in the last column we don't have to add a comma. Okay, so and as I said earlier, don't forget the semicolon at the end of every line in a MySQL Workbench. You now created that table. Okay, so before inserting values in that table, it is very wise to first make sure that we created the table correctly. So we want to see the table that we just created, even though we know we don't have any values in it. So what we are going to use, we are going to use select, okay, asterisk from employees. I'm going to explain this in just a moment, and semicolon, and now you can see the table that we just created, which has the employee ID, the employee name, and the salary. Okay, so select, it's a statement that we are going to use a lot, and it's allow us to see the values in a table. Okay, so now select, we are selecting. The asterisk right here stands for all. We are selecting all the values, all the data from the table, from the employees table. Okay, so the syntax is select all, which is asterisk, from the table name. In our case, it's employees. Okay, so now to insert values in our table, we simply type insert into the name of the table, employees, and between parentheses we mention the columns, the column names. In our case, it's employee ID. MySQL Workbench is not case sensitive, so either you type it employee ID like this, or like this, or even the whole word in uppercase or lowercase. MySQL Workbench, it's not a case sensitive program. Okay, so employee ID, comma, the employee name, the second column, and the third column, salary, and now we close the parentheses. Okay, now we type values, and then we open a bracket and close it, and now we insert the values of the first row. So in our case we are going to insert these values right here. So we insert values horizontally, not vertically. Okay, so we are going to insert 1 Michael Scott and 60,000, then 2 Jim Halbert, and then 50,000, etc. Okay, so 1. Okay, then because it's a text, it's a string, we have to put that text in quotes. Okay, Michael, what's the Scott? Okay, and comma to insert the value in the third column. It's 60,000. Okay, so now we just typed the values of the first row. So how to insert the values of the second row? Just as we did earlier, we just put a comma. Okay, and then we open and close parentheses, 2, which is the ID, the employee ID, the name, the employee name, which is Jim Halbert, and 50,000, a comma. We do the same, 3 Palm Beasley, and then 40,000. The first row, Dwight Schrute, and 55,000. And the last row, 5 Stanley Hudson, and 45,000. Okay, so now we just inserted the values. So now we just typed the values that we want to insert in that table, and don't forget the semicolon. I hit Control and Enter, and now you can see that insert into employees blah blah blah, 5 rows affected. So how, if we want to see the values, we just use the same statement that we used before. It's select all from employees, and don't forget the semicolon, and now you can see the values. Employee ID 1 Michael Scott 60,000, 2 Jim Halbert 50,000, 3 Palm Beasley 40,000, etc. So guys, I hope this tutorial was clear for you, and if you have any question, leave it in the comment section, and I will be very glad to answer it. Take care and see you in the next video. Bye bye.